In this video, we're going to be talking about multiplying decimals, and we are going to be talking about using partial product in order to do so. So we start with this problem. We have 14 and 3/10 times 5 and 1/10. So what we're going to do is we're going to start by just removing the decimals. And when I say that, I don't mean removing the 3 and the 1, just taking those decimal points out and making these whole numbers. So 143 times 51. So now when I do that, I'm going to take my smaller number and I'm going to break it up into two parts. The goal of this is to make them really easy numbers to work with so that we can multiply easier. So I have 143 and times 50 and then 143 times 1. So the first one I'm going to do is 143 times 1 because that's really easy for me to do, and I get 143. Now, when I multiply 143 times 50, what I can do is just multiply by 5 and then add the 0 at the end. So I'm just going to go off to the side and say 143 times 5. You get 15, carry the 1. 5 times 4 is 20, plus 1 is 21. 5 times 1 is 5, plus 2 is 7. So you get 715, and then that with that 0 on the end is 7,150. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add those two numbers together. 7150, 143. Add them up, you get 3, 9, 2, 7. Okay, the last thing we have to do is we have to go back to our problem and say, okay, let's look at how many decimals did I have behind the decimal, or how many digits, do you have behind the decimal point? So I'm looking for, we have one number here and one number here, which means we have 2 digits behind the decimal. So in our answer, we have to go in 1, 2, put your decimal, and you get 72 and 93 hundredths. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to do that same process for this next one. We have 25 hundredths times 2 and 6/10. Again, we're just going to say, okay, 25, we're taking those decimals out, making these whole numbers, 25 times 26. Now, I'm going to break up 26 because I think it would be easier to work with multiplying by 25. So we have 20 and 6. So what we're going to do is we're going to say 25 times 20 and 25 times 6. Okay, when we do 25 times 20, I'm going to do 25 times 2, which is 50, because I like to think of quarters, right? If I had 2 quarters, I'd have 50 cents. And then we add that 0 in, so 500. Now, 25 times 6 is a little bit trickier. So what I would think of is 25 times 4. So if you have 4 quarters, you have $1. So if 25 times 4 is 100, and then 25 times 2 is 50. So 25 times 6 would be 150. So now I'm going to add up 500 plus 150, and you get 0, 5, 6. But we have to go back and say, okay, how many numbers did I have after my decimal points? Well, I had 1, 2 in this one, and then 3. So I had 3. So you start at the end and you count in 1, 2, 3. Put your decimal point. I usually add a 0 before, so your answer would be 0 and 650 thousandths. Okay, last we're going to do this problem. We have 3 and 8/10 times 4/10. So remember, we're removing those decimals so we make whole numbers. So 38 times 4. And so now we can't really break up 4. So what I would do is I would break up 38 to make easier numbers. So we have 30 and 8. So we are going to do 30 times 4 and 8 times 4. So I would do 3 times 4, which is 12, and then add your 0. And then 8 times 4, which is 32. So now I'm going to add up 120 plus 32. And you are going to get 2, 5, 1. To go back into our problem, and we have to look at our decimals and say how many numbers do I have behind my decimal? 1, 2. So we count in 1, 2, and you get 1 and 52 hundredths for your answer. So remember, when you are multiplying decimals, we multiply the numbers without the decimal point as if they were whole numbers. Then we count the digits or the numbers after the decimal in the problem. And then we can start at the end and add that decimal back into the answer to get your final answer. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to work on IXL, and then you're going to work on the multiplying decimals practice. Remember, you have to get a 9 out of 10 in order to complete the retake. Let me know if you have any questions.